Well, hi everyone! Today will be the first day when I'm drawing into my new sketchbook, which is this cute little Doraemon one. I love these type of Japanese notebook sketchbooks. I've used them a lot in the past, but these books are Japanese and I'm German, so I'm going to start this book from the back side. This is kind of a coincidence because I decided on what art supplies I want to use next before I even started the sketchbook, but luckily it's very much on theme because not only is this a Japanese sketchbook, but I'm also going to be using pens that I bought on my trip to Japan a long time ago. Specifically, I will be using this bunch of Frixion markers, pens, highlighters. Not exactly sure what they're marketed as, but it probably has to do with studying. Now, these Frixion pens probably have one of my favorite designs when it comes to the outer shell. Like, I really don't know what it is, but it's very pleasing to the eye and it feels nice to hold in my hand. Although I have to admit, the marker tip is not exactly my favorite. Like, it's just a tidbit too skinny for me. But also, look at all these pens together. They're like bright colors in combination with the clear caps. Doesn't that kind of remind you of one of those like aero aesthetics? You know, like those really old Mac desktops? Just in case you didn't know, Frixion pens are actually erasable, and that's kind of their main gimmick. So this part up here on the cap is just a little piece of rubber that you can use to erase. You can erase perfectly fine with this cap. The one issue I have with it is, though, as pretty as the pen looks from the outside, the shape of the cap actually makes it kind of hard to erase because it has like a very flat edge. But in theory, you should be able to use any kind of eraser. This is the first time I tried using a different eraser. I'm happy it kind of works, but the cap, the rubber on the cap actually works better than a normal eraser. Perhaps because this rubber is a little harder. Now let me explain the magic of these pens the same way it was explained to me. So the way these pens work is they don't actually get erased the same way pencil lead would be erased, but what happens instead is if you use an eraser or the rubber end to rub over the pen, it causes friction, and that's where the pens get their name from. This friction creates heat, and it's actually the heat that makes the ink turn clear. And this might not create any cause of concern for you yet, as it didn't for me when I bought these pens. But recently, I've been getting quite a few posts on social media of people sharing how they accidentally erased the ink from their papers. And apparently it's pretty easy to do that. If you just put down a cup of tea or your phone onto your notebook, even if it's not even the main page, it might still end up erasing your ink. And based on some people's stories, that appears to also be an issue if you just live in a really warm climate area. So that's incredibly unfortunate. So just for that sake alone, I would suggest you do not buy these Frixion pens if you want to use them to do art or anything that's supposed to be permanent. That being said, if you just want some pretty pens in your collection and you just want to have fun and you don't really care about it lasting forever, absolutely buy these pens. They're beautiful and the colors are really nice. I believe these are actually two sets that I own and I just mixed them together. But I bought these back in 2019, so it's been a really, really long time. Let's start off by swatching them and showing you just how pretty the colors are. I have been trying my best to try and have my hand not cover the page while I'm swatching. But it's taken me a lot of getting used to, but I just want you to know I'm trying my best, I promise. Here are the swatches, and first of all, as you can see, they're all quite pastel-y. Like, there's a few in there that are slightly darker, or more like actually more brighter rather than darker. And the second thing that you should be noticing is I swatched all of these in rainbow order as they're lying here on my table. And the colors, for the most part, absolutely do not match the caps on the pens, which I really don't like having misleading packaging on art supplies. And as much as I love these colors because I think they're very pretty, I would have so much more enjoyed it if the pens actually matched the cap colors, because I love just how bright and vibrant they are. I'm gonna try to do something similar and try to cram a lot of axolotl in this page without them overlapping, and then fill in all the little blank spaces between the axolotls with some stuff. Now, like I've said, since these pens fade pretty easily, I think it's very, very, very important to add some permanent line art, so just in case the colors do fade over time, there's still going to be something left of your drawing. These tiny little worms and their tiny little details took me so long to fill in, but I do think the worms make kind of like a cool little effect around the axolotls. If you're enjoying this video so far, I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe and hit the bell. And I'll send you some cute axolotls having a dance party in your dreams tonight. Now the next part is choosing the colors, and I have 11 Frixion pens, but only 5 axolotls. This ended up looking surprisingly a lot like just a normal axolotl. I'm also going to use a normal eraser just to lighten the color on the tail a little. At least that's what I'm gonna try to do. What did get a little lighter, but it's not really all that noticeable. These pens are not exactly supposed to blend, but in my experience they do kind of smudge a lot. So you can sort of fake a blending effect by layering them. And that's precisely what I've been trying to do by adding a little bit of blush into their elbows, knees, and cheek. And again, I'm speaking from experience here, but you should absolutely not layer these pens on like larger areas, because that, for some reason, that tends to like eat up the tip of the markers and it gets all frizzy. And once the tip is frizzy, the ink tends to come out a lot more streaky when you're using them. That is unfortunately something that I have had happen to one of the pink pens and the purple one. So I would suggest you avoid doing it, but it is fine to do on like smaller areas. Oh no. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So I actually used the wrong color pen and I tried to erase it, but apparently these rubber tips also smudge my fine liners. And like, I praise these like Staedtler pigment liners so much. These are by far my favorite pens because they never smudge, but apparently they do smudge. I did not want this. I didn't know this could happen. Normal erasers don't smudge these pens. Oh well. I mean, it's not the first smudge. I already smudged my nail polish over here too. Let's just pretend that never happened. I love these Staedtler pigment liners so much. They are the best and smoothest waterproof fine liners I've ever used, and I've used a lot of different ones, and these ones are amazing because they never smudge. But for some reason, I don't know what these Frixion pens are made of, but for some reason these are like the only pens that actually manage to smudge my Staedtler a little. And it's not like super bad smudging, but if you're really looking at it, you can tell it does kind of smudge the black outlines a little. Just a quick important tip, the ink is erasable, these pens are erasable, but you should absolutely 100% wait for the ink to be completely dry, because if you try to erase it while still even just a tiny little hint of moisture in there, you will rip your paper apart, and you will potentially become afraid of ever erasing them again. These pens right here, they're not the oldest art supply that I own, but I do think these are the oldest markers I still own, and that's kind of the reason why I am planning on using them quite a bit in my sketchbooks for now. Probably not for videos because that would get boring really quick, but just whenever I'm doodling in here, because recently I noticed that some of my water-based markers, even though I wasn't using them, started to dry up. And I assume that's just because of age, but also because it is because of age. I am actually kind of worried that a lot of my art supplies are gonna dry up long before I'm able to use them. So I did kind of put myself on a mission to try to use up my art supplies from oldest to newest. Because it would be such a shame if I had to throw away even more of them without really enjoying them. And like I said, I think these are my oldest markers because I keep rebuying a lot of the Crayola sets. And that's why these Frixion pens are like at the top of my list right now. And while it would be cool to have like an entire sketchbook only colored in with one single type of art supply, if I truly force myself to do stuff like that, I lose interest in actually doing it really fast. Like, it's not gonna become fun anymore, it's gonna turn into like a task. So I'm not gonna force myself to use these Frixion pens, but whenever I don't really care about what art supply I'm using, I will try. But whenever I don't really care about using a specific art supply, I'm gonna try to kind of push myself to use these ones instead. But also I'm gonna be so sad when these pens run empty, like when I use them up and there's no ink anymore, and at that point I kind of have to throw them away because there's no point in keeping them, but also they're like so pretty, I really don't want to throw them away. And I also don't want to buy new Frixion pens just because like I said a million times in this video, they do seem to fade rather quickly, so I really do want to avoid buying them. Honestly, if I had the room for it, I'd probably just keep these pens even when they're empty and display them somewhere as decoration. I just made another mistake. Even though I selected this bright pink to be partnered with this pale purple, I kept thinking it's this pink that's combined with this one. And I've already drawn in the purple and it's not really a good idea to erase it. I will try my best to erase the purple without smudging my line art and then replace it with the pink. Okay, interesting. So I tried to erase the purple and as expected it did smudge quite a bit, but what I'm more surprised about is that when I try to draw on top of the erased area with the pink, the paper doesn't really take to the ink. That is kind of bizarre. It kind of feels like when you have cheap quality whiteboard markers and you're trying to draw on a whiteboard, and it kind of feels like instead of drawing, the pen is erasing. That's kind of what's happening here. But this kind of makes me suspicious, like maybe I have been lied to and it's not just heat that makes the ink of these pens go clear and invisible / erased. Maybe there's also something weird or special going on with the rubber eraser tips. Okay, so far so good. The axolotls are done, I think. And now, actually, before I color in the background, I think I'm gonna give this one some spot. And then I'm gonna go over and color in the little worms in the background. And here is my finished axolotl picture. Colored in entirely with these really fun Frixion pens. I think these pens are fun. I love the colors. But now that I look at the finished picture, I feel like the black pen is way too dominant, and it really takes away the emphasis from the actual colors, which should have been the main focal point. But unfortunately, I still don't really have any pens in I don't have any fine liner pens in other colors. So perhaps I should have actually just drawn the worms with my skinnier 0.05 fine liner. Maybe that would have helped, because I feel like the worms are most of the black sludge that's going on. But all that being said, I think this one down here, the first one that I've done the line art for, is my favorite axolotl from this page. I also think the little freckles made it like 10 times cuter. So let me know what you think about my art. Let me know what you think about these pens, especially if you have used these before. Do you like the colors? Do you like their color selection? Do you think they're as pretty as I think they're pretty? And have you accidentally made it turn clear by putting something hot on your page? So thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any ideas of what else I could draw or what art supplies I could use, leave them in the comments down below, and I really hope to see you again next week for another video. Goodbye!